Hello. My name is Bruce, and you're watching my only hands account on the left. And then on my right is my lovely guest, Miss Janet from another planet.
Hello.
Looks like she's been
Hello.
once bitten, maybe thrice bitten, depending on which vampire lore you follow. So, Janet, tonight we are reviewing one of my favorite movies from my childhood, and it was one of your favorite movies from your adulthood as well. Not really adulthood, like young adulthood. This is Fright Night, 1985.
Yep. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
I hadn't seen it in years. I've not seen this since 1988. And oh wow, our chat's going nuts. Oh wow. Yeah, ladies
Hello,
talking to
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you for showing up.
Yes, we have some dedicated friends of ours that are here. Six Nation 31 Kings. Janet,
Yeah.
thank you for joining the membership.
You're welcome.
Lady is here.
Thanks to some another person.
Crafting Gamer, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice man he is. Lady is here. He's our dirty campaigner. Then we have Grumpy Old Ninja Kintaro. And our friend Zombie Box Reviews. Here he is. And Ruben. Ruben going nuts with the all caps. We can understand that. We can completely understand that. No, you're not nuts. We get it. My blackout coffee and Duke Cannon soaps today. The charcoal soap is amazing. Yeah, that lathers the Duke Cannon soap just lathers up me amazingly. Yes, soy base. Hello, how are you? Seen this well over 30 times. It's one of the better modern vampire films out there. Agreed. And our friend Travis joins up with us.
Hello. Thank you for coming.
So, this is a fan favorite for many people. And in my opinion, this is Roddy McDowall's movie. Amanda Bierce is in it too, which she's gorgeous and the inspiration for Miss Janet's outfit tonight, and I really appreciate that.
And it's scary.
Yes.
A little scary.
Chris Sarandon is in this movie, and I didn't realize how much he has been in other films. The guy's been everywhere.
Yeah, he plays a good bad guy.
He not just plays a good bad guy. I mean, yeah, his sister's Susan, so he's a little nuts. But he was in Nightmare Before Christmas. He did The Princess Bride. He was in Child's Play. And in this movie, he plays the vampire, which I thought
bad guy. One of the bad guys.
Yeah, he's one of the bad guys. And it was just fun to watch this movie because this is it's almost like a coming of age movie for me because I saw it right when I was like 13 and what are these strange hairs doing on me, that sort of thing. And, I'm already crushing on Christina Applegate because she's Kelly Bundy, but the neighbor lady, Marcy DRC is in this movie and she's fine. Hello, Mage's Musings. Hello, Crafting Gamer.
Yeah, thank you for showing up. Appreciate it.
Once again, the Crafting Gamer delivers. This is a thing he's done for the past 3 streams we've had. Whoever catches this, congratulations and welcome to the fold.
Yes, thank you, Crafting Gamer. That was sweet.
Halo popping in to say like and hi. Only hands, nice.
Hello.
I saw this movie for the first time in a few months back. It's a very solid film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was very surprised with this film because I never seen it before I was 13. It'd come out a few years before and everybody talked about it. mom, dad don't let you go see scary movies because you're a kid,
Yeah.
So I get to
Well,
watch
they
it.
don't know what for sure is in it because they haven't seen it themselves. So I can understand why a parent wouldn't want their kid to go see a vampire movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, that makes sense.
It was a solid choice for them to not let me see this in theater.
Yeah.
I would have gone nuts with the ghoul makeup. I love the ghoul makeup in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very good. They did a good job. I don't know how they did the contact lenses because they looked very thick,
Yes.
the ones they were wearing. So today they're just really easy and thin. So anybody can wear them, to make your eye completely black or white. But back then they were real thick and, cumbersome. So I don't know how they were able to do it because there was a few of them that wore it. Even the evil character when he was transforming back, if it was him, it might have been a machine or whatever. But in the parts where he was transitioning, you could tell he was wearing those contacts too. So it's pretty gruesome. That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, especially its facial expressions and stuff from Roddy McDowell. He did an excellent job watching him transform, and you could see the fear and the sadness in his face. So I thought he did great.
He really did a great job with his facial expressions in this movie.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised at how well McDowell's entire performance held up for me because we'll talk about that later. But there's like Roddy McDowell plays the Vincent Price-esque character in this movie, and
Yeah.
he does a fantastic job of just being a very good old horror movie MC and introducing his favorite films that he's been a part of, and he's he kind of hams it up, but he has a depth to his character which I do like. Um, I was surprised at how the young man who is the sidekick to the main character, the main high schooler,
Yeah.
William Ragsdale plays Charlie
He
Brewster.
seemed more like he was Amy's sidekick than
Yeah.
Brewster's. So that at least that's how it came across to me. So that
And
him and Amy were friends because she seemed to like the little nerds, basically.
mhm.
That she liked Evil and she liked Charlie as her friends. And she seemed very nerdish herself, book smart. So that's how I think. But I don't know for sure. I'm not 100%.
So I really love the build up to this film. I love how Act 1 and Act 2 are almost seamless, and how the mother keeps kind of downplaying what's going on next door, and she's like, "Charlie, we don't have vampires next door,"
Yeah.
and she
Because she was popping pills all the time. At least that's the way that they tried to portray her. She was a working mom, and then when she was to sleep all the time, she was taking Xanax and
that's
whatever
an
else
80s
she could.
thing. And that
So,
is an
because she
80s
did
thing so hard.
reference it. Do you want a Xanax? Remember when she thought he was stressed out and he
I
was
thought it
making
was
all that
Valium.
noise, or Valium or whatever? The same thing, isn't it? Just about.
Yes.
So yeah. So she was a pill popping housewife mom, single, not married or whatever, because she didn't have a husband. We don't know why, but from the show, she was a single mom trying to raise her teenage son, and had to work nights. So she had to sleep during the day and take pills to sleep and keep her eyes covered up. So there you go. Half
Yeah,
of America.
Vicodin.
Yeah, Vicodin. Yeah.
I think it was Vicodin. She was not all there. She had drugs going on. I agree.
Yeah.
This film just has so much in it, and it's almost like this is almost a very accurate time travel back to 1984, 85.
Yeah. Yeah, with everything in the house, the way the house was set up, the clothes, even the cars, everything about it, it's very, very 80s.
Very 80s chick,
Mhm.
and the clothes the clothes the boys wore to school the outfits that Amanda Bierce is wearing. I remember seeing those on the girls when they would get on the bus. I just,
Mhm.
I like I said, it's a nice little time capsule,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I, I dug so much of it, and then when the third act starts to resolve, and you realize Evil Ed is kind of a vampire now, it gets to be kind of interesting, but more interesting than what it was beforehand. And the prosthetics start to come out. The prosthetics are phenomenal in this film. This movie doesn't have the. I don't think this movie had the budget of The Howling, or they didn't put the budget towards the prosthetics like The Howling did, but that was pretty close.
Yeah, I didn't really find anything that exactly had the exact budget in it.
No,
Um,
I have to go to Wikipedia. Let me do that
but
because
Tom
Wikipedia.
Holland, I was reading about while he was writing Cloak and Dagger, is when he
Mhm.
came up with the idea of a horror movie. Being a fan, being convinced that his next door neighbor was a vampire. So he didn't know whether or not it was going to be enough to carry a whole script. So he just kind of played around with it, and he from the paperwork and stuff that I've read, it says that everybody told him that he was crazy to think that he could do a whole story about just that premise about a kid, a paranoid kid, thinking his neighbor was a vampire. But you got to remember, in Transformers, in the very first one, the guy, the young kid, he was basically doing all this stuff, and nobody believed him either, right? And his mom was always thinking he was, playing with himself in his room or whatever. So I thought all that was really good. But the whole concept of him thinking that there was somebody in that store that was killing people, and enough to where he would go get police and everything. So I think he did a really good job writing a script around that one idea. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? To
I,
make
I,
it a believable story and fun to watch.
the idea of Charlie Brewster being a horror movie aficionado
Hmm.
and tying him to that, I thought was pretty good. I mean, because there's a lot of movies where they kind of do the same premise where like there's a young boy and he likes martial arts and eventually he meets Jet Li and Jackie Chan and they go on a quest together, and it's kind of cool like that. But this here has such a great feeling to it because the young boy gets to meet his hero, and initially the hero that Roddy McDowall plays is not everything he's cracked up to be.
Yeah, not what he was thinking he was growing up as a
No.
kid, watching him on TV every week. He thought was really a vampire hunter, and
Yeah.
he grew up quickly over this few days of this whole experience for him. So I thought that was really good. Him and Amy both grew up a lot. Hers was more of a sexualized learning experience, and his was more realizing that he's going to have to grow up and do things for himself because the one person he thought was more like a father figure, a vampire slayer, wasn't really a vampire slayer at all. He was just an old actor. So, that to me, I thought was a really good premise for both of them as boyfriend and girlfriend to grow up in two different aspects of their life. And I thought that was good, adding that to the story to give it more intrigue.
And I liked how Jerry got invited over to the house by uh,
The mom,
Brewster's mom,
because
and
mom
then
messes up everything.
yeah, and she does that, and then freaking Dandridge says it would be impolite for me to just come inside, wouldn't it? She invited me in, and it's like, oh, you're screwed now, you know. Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
it really scared him because he was convinced already
Yeah,
from
he
what
was
he'd
already
seen.
convinced this guy's a vampire, and now he's quoting vampire lore to young Charlie, who's watched every Up All Night movie for the past 16 years. No, not 16, probably closer to 15, because they try to portray him as he doesn't. I don't think he drove, did he? Did he drive in this movie?
Did he drive the car?
Yeah, did he drive the car?
No, I never saw him drive anything.
Yeah, I think he was supposed to be 15.
But the whole thing when he was hiding in the bushes, and they came out and saw him, and he threw the apple core at him, and he already knew he was there. But the fact that he got him to jump up and run into the house with his mother when he threw the apple core at him, I thought that was hilarious. That was a really good, funny scene. So because it did have its comedy takes, and then other scenes were really scary. To me, I remember being really scared. The part where the wolf jumps and then gets stabbed in the chest with the table leg that broke off. And that whole transformation was just really scary to me. It just made me cringe watching all that because I thought that was really good.
Lady says he drove the Mustang and the vampire trashed it.
Oh, that's right. He did because it had the patches on it and stuff. It was half white and half red, like he was getting worked on. That's right. I remember him getting out of the car, but I don't remember him driving. I just remember him getting out of it. You know what I mean? I didn't actually remember seeing him driving it in the movie, but I could be wrong, but I don't remember that.
But whenever Charlie turns to Peter Vincent and Peter just dismisses him as an obsessed fanboy, I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, keep in mind, this movie was made in 1984 and released early 85 and released on August 2nd. It's 106 minutes long, so it's in that danger zone where Dino De Laurentiis would be like, that's almost too long of a movie, make it 86 minutes. The budget for this, there's being reported between $7 and $9.25 million. And
that's not very much money.
Yeah.
Considering how good the effects were for the transformation of the werewolf character. That wasn't really a werewolf, but he was a wolf-like being. But the I was just reading about Sarandon being offered the part of the vampire, and he didn't want to take it because he was worried that he would be typecast as a villain type character. So he wasn't really thinking about maybe not taking the movie's part to do it as a vampire. So I thought that was interesting too, because he did such a good job. But he was very attractive. So you don't expect Dracula to be ugly, because if he's going to lure women in, or even men, he has to be attractive in some way. And to me, he had a vibe of bisexual. Even though maybe someone else didn't notice that, but with the way he hugged and
the way he treated
around his helper, you know what I mean? I got a bisexual kind of vibe from him for that, even though he didn't do it to Charlie or anything. And in a way, the way he brought in evil in the alley. Remember, I talked about how he flew in and then he landed and he was toying with him. But when he told him that, I understand what it's like to be bullied, because I was just like you, but they won't bully you anymore, blah, 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 giving him a sob story. And then he puts his hand out for him and then he opens his coat, since he doesn't have a Dracula robe on, with the collar that sticks up and all that stuff. I thought that was really, really, I liked it because it was comforting for him in a way, especially when he was sitting there on the ground and you see a tear running down his eye because he realizes he's about to die and he's afraid. So I thought he did really good at wooing him, making him feel accepted and that he was going to care for him. It seemed like he didn't have that. He was a misfit and he probably didn't have a good home life or whatever. So that came across.
Not.
Yeah. So I thought Sarandon did a really good job in that whole alley scene. But I did laugh about it later when I realized when Evil changed from the wolf into himself again, he was nude. And so that meant he couldn't wear clothes. So when he changed into the wolf upstairs, he had to have lost his clothes. And then that Sarandon was able to fly through the city or whatever and land in the island. He was fully clothed with his coat and everything on. So I thought that was kind of, I didn't realize that. I didn't notice it when I first saw the movie. But now when I watched it, yesterday to get ready for this, I was like, that was like a mistake in the editing part of it, by not letting him have some way of getting dressed or explaining why he was able to have clothes on after being a bat flying through the air. You know what I mean? Transforming. And remember when he transformed and attacked Roddy McDowell on the stairs in the house, he wasn't clothed at that time, but he had clothes on when he transformed in the basement. So, little things like that. Because he took his shirt off when he was about to bite Amy, and he stripped down like he was gonna, have some kind of interlude with her, and then she does her top and everything. So that was a very growing up moment for her, for someone supposedly that was a virgin and never been through any of that stuff, and she had that excitement and stuff. Like when they were at the on the dance floor, and he was wooing her, he was putting that that vampire mesmerizing thing on her, whatever you want to call it, mojo or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was making her want him, but you could tell in that one scene when they were on the floor before he bit her that he wanted to bite her because he wanted her because she looked like his lost love. But at the last minute, he stopped because he kind of toyed with her a little bit. And then when she decided to do it on her own without him having to push it on her, he seemed more excited about it. I don't know if that makes any sense, if you noticed that or not, or if you saw it differently than that.
We call that, and Flatey hits it on the nail. There's an old game, a vampire game called World of Darkness, and that's actually the world that everything takes place in. You have Vampire the Masquerade, which is one part of it, and the vampires have a thing called presence, where like the more they put into presence, the more they can make everybody else just stop and take notice of them, and suck out the air of the room and make everybody just like, oh my god, look at him, and that sort of thing where people just get mesmerized and panties get wet, and men.
But no one else seemed affected. See, it was like he was focusing just on her and that whole club of people.
Completely focused on her.
So she was the one that was drawn to him, even when she was standing there while Charlie was trying to make the phone calls to try to get a hold of Mr. Vincent. But she was mesmerized by him. So he was putting out some kind of vibe to attract her, and the music didn't help her at all. So I thought the music was very sexual. It was very it made you want to dance, do a sexy dance, or a slow dance with someone. It was very it lured me, and I thought it was a really, really good scene. I really enjoyed that whole thing that was going on in the club, except when the two bouncers got involved. So that ruined it. That took away the sexy part.
There used to be a trope in Decatur, Illinois, where I lived. Soy City is what we called it, because they make soybeans, and soybeans go there to get processed. But the BBB, the triple B, and that's when you got a big black bouncer bounding in on you, and he pretty much doesn't give you a choice. You become part of the pavement outside. You get in your car and you go somewhere else and enjoy it there. Your time at this location's over. And whenever I saw the BBB going over there to the vampire, I'm like, oh, I remember this part. Yeah, this completely wouldn't have happened in Decatur. They would have trounced the vampire. I could have seen that, but that's just kind of something that I was thinking, because I was laughing of, oh, this is something that you usually see at any corner bar or any neighborhood bar. You have this guy that's like, he's a retired boxer or something, and he comes out and he's got these huge sausage fingers, and he looks like he just like beats on cows all day, wrestles bulls to the ground. Get in there. I don't care if you're a bull. Give him milk. Just those guys look beefy, and then the Jerry Dandridge just treats them like they're just hunks of meat and throws them around like, "No, you're just a steak."
Yeah, because he was really pissed off. And
Yeah, super pissed off.
in his room, you're talking about that scene
Yeah,
where he stabbed him
in
with
the
a
club
pencil in
when
the
the bouncers
hand.
got involved.
And I
When the
thought that
bouncers got
was
involved,
really
yeah,
cool. Sorry.
that was no, you're fine. I thought it was very interesting to watch that part at play because it's been 30 years since I've seen that, and I forgot
Mhm.
completely about this. And that just made me laugh a bit. I'm like, man, I've seen so many people get thrown out by the BBB, and
Yeah.
here we are. And this is the one time, it's the one movie where this would happen. Like, if it would happen in a 2023 film, like those bouncers would have cleaned house. They would,
Yeah.
they got minority status. But no, I'm just joking, guys. I'm just joking. Don't leave. This was
Yeah.
the club scene I thought was great,
Hmm.
and watching Amanda Bierce just kind of get seduced right there in the middle of the club and ready to throw her dress at the foot of the bed. That was worth the watch.
Yeah, she did really good, portraying a young girl that was torn between doing what was right and doing what her body was telling her she wanted to do. So I thought she did very good at that, portraying that part, like when she was pulling down on her collar and wanting to expose her chest a little more and her
Hmm.
neck, knowing that that's what he wanted was to bite her. But she should have just tried not to do it. Even though she knew he wasn't going to. I think in the back of her mind, she knew he wasn't going to bite her um, in the club. And the part where she's dancing with him and realizes he's really a vampire because there's no reflection in the mirrors on the walls, uh, and all the other people there, but she can't see him. I thought that was a really good effect. I thought they did a really good job on that
The
to
mirrors was
make it.
amazing.
Yeah, I thought they did. I just thought they did a really good job. Plus, in the mirror reflection too, you know what I was looking for?
What?
Cameras and cables, and other things like that, and booms. And I didn't see any of that stuff. So they did a really good job in making sure there wasn't anything in the reflection, which I liked. That was really good.
Have a good night, Soy Base Jeremy. Take care, bud.
Bye.
Um, there's oh, he's sticking around. He was
Oh.
kidding. Um, Sarandon throughout the entire film, he's having Jerry Dandridge just eat apples throughout the entire thing,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked at a lot of vampire lore, a lot of vampire stories while he's doing the preparations for this movie, and
Yeah.
he's like, I just got a lot of fruit bat DNA in me, so maybe maybe he is a little bi there, but
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far because the fruit bat, maybe it's just quote unquote a fruit bat. But the way he's playing around with, Billy Cole, I really thought that like that was one of the first times I can remember where a gay vampire was pretty much alluded to. Because I don't remember the 40s and 30s films having any gay overtones to them.
Mm-mm.
This was like the first time, and
I
then
didn't
when I
know if they were doing it on purpose or if they were just trying to show that they had a really long relationship. We don't know how long he'd been his assistant, his what was it? Renfield. His Renfield, basically.
yeah, he basically
So
is a Renfield, and you don't
yeah,
know what the deal is with him, but I do appreciate that as a horror movie connoisseur that they
yeah,
played along that trope where these guys have probably known each other for a couple centuries because
yeah,
they acted like
very,
that.
very long time. And he was willing to do whatever it took to protect him. You could tell by everything he did. And when he got shot, I was shocked when he got shot in the head because I wasn't expecting it to be a real gun. I was thinking it was a prop gun, right? And then when he really
Nope,
shot
no
him,
problem here.
when he what's my tooth law? Sorry, darn it, I lost one of my fangs. Oh well. But when he shot him in the head and he fell back to the bottom of the stairs, I thought that was a really, really good scene because everybody was surprised by it. And then all of a sudden, it gets really foggy and he stands back up, So I thought that was really creepy. I remember how creepy that was. So it's pretty scary.
I like how after all the rigmarole before the club scene, they get Peter Vincent involved, and so Amy and Evil Ed hire him
Hmm.
with a $500 savings bond to just take some normal tap water and go try it.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a
Well, before they did that, when they first went into his bedroom and they saw him sitting on the bed with all those pieces of the fence from the front yard, okay, or the side yard, and he's whittling away at them, trying to make steaks out of them. And then he's got like, it looked like at least 100 candles lit and cloves of garlic and just everything around the room, because he thinks he's going to die because his mom had given him the right to come into his house, and he knew he was going to die because he told him he was going to kill him. So the look on Evil and Amy's face when they walked in, they were like, what the, they were really surprised to see his room look like that, knowing he was about to do something crazy, but they didn't know what he was going to do. So when he's telling them his plan was to go over there during the day and stake him while he's in his casket, they were really worried about him because they really thought he was about to do something nuts like that. So they came up with that plan to find Mr. Vincent. And then when he said he'd already talked to him, they were like, okay, they had to scramble for a second and then figure out a different way to calm him down enough to where maybe they could do something different. So when they went to Mr. Vincent, they were just saying, hey, you got to help our friend. He's nuts. So I thought that whole scenario was funny, comical in the way, but also, added to the fear that everybody was going to have later when they realized he really was a vampire and he was going to kill everyone, basically.
yeah. They
Before we
do the
even knew
test,
that he
and
thought Amy was beautiful and wanted to be his bride, that type of thing.
I like how Amy is his Tatiana. I don't remember if that's the actual Dracula name for his lost love. I think it was
No,
like Tatiana or
Mina.
something like that.
Mina was
Nina,
the name
my bad.
of the bride that
I'm
he was
getting
wanting.
I'm getting Strahd and Dracula confused here, and I apologize to my gamer friends. Strahd was our Ravenloft vampire, the one that sold thousands of books and box sets. And Strahd's girl was Tatiana, and he would always look for a woman that looked like Tatiana. And it just, it's a thing. You kind of crush. You never forget your first love. Men are stupid anyway.
No, they're not. We just have men and women have just different ways of looking at things because of our hormones, depending on what part in our life we are. But I thought it was interesting when I was reading that Charlie Sheen was one of the ones they were looking at to play a Charlie's part in real life. And Eric Stoltz too. Eric Stoltz was another one that they were looking at. But that what was his first name? Darn it.
Which one?
The actor that played Charlie. Can't remember. Like a second. I just went blank. It was William Ragsdale. He had interviewed quite a few times, like five times, and he didn't think he was going to get it. But the fact that they kept interviewing him, to do different things, was because they were stuck, not knowing if they wanted more of a name or if they wanted one to be the innocent young man that sees, in his vision in his head when he was thinking about the neighbor, thinking the next door neighbor was a vampire. He was killing women. So it was that part of it that he was really trying to fulfill. And just like I said, now you and I, we could watch it and we would accept whoever's in it if we like the movie and the story. But he's the one that had the story in his mind. And he came up with the idea. So Holland was trying to picture who he would put in the position from what his vision was. So I think that's really good because, a lot of writers do that when they're writing their stories. They envision what they want the person to look like. So to me, it makes it even better when you actually get the writer involved in helping visualize the sets, where they're going to film, and some of the characters, and actually fulfilling, helping with that. picking of that stuff, because I really think it helps you, the director too, envision what the writer was trying to come across when they were writing their story. You know what I mean? So I think that's really good. I thought they did a good job on everyone they picked. I loved Evil. I thought he was very believable as a misfit, type kid, but funny, and goofy and lonely. And he did a really good job playing the disgusting, freaky vampire.
Yeah,
And him and Roddy McDowall, the two scenes that they had together when he was at Roddy McDowall's apartment, and he's jumping around and he's sticking his tongue out between his teeth and being all freaky about how he was gonna yum when he was talking about Brewster's dinner, that his mom left it in the oven. All that, the interaction between those two characters was really, really good. They played well on each other, bouncing back and forth. The facial expressions of Roddy McDowall for the empathy he had for Evil, even though he was a vampire, because he'd seen him earlier in the day, and the day before as a normal kid. And then all of a sudden to see him so evil and hideous, and that he knew what that his life was over. Basically, he was no longer a kid. He was now a demon, basically. So I just loved the whole interaction. Roddy McDowall was just kick butt. I just loved him in this movie. I thought he was phenomenal. I just loved him.
The only thing I don't like about this movie, truly, is Roddy McDowall's comment where he made a knock on Vincent Price, and he said, I'll give you the quote from IMDb right here. Although the part of Peter Vincent was based upon and originally written for Vincent Price to play, Roddy McDowall decided Peter Vincent was not in the same league as Vincent Price. My part is that of an old ham actor. I mean, a dreadful actor, McDowall commented in a 1985 interview with Monsterland magazine. He had a moderate success in an isolated film here and there, but all very bad product. Basically, he played one character for 8 or 10 films, for which he probably got paid next to nothing. Unlike stars of horror films who are very good actors and played lots of different roles, such as Peter Lorre and Vincent Price or Boris Karloff, this poor son of a bitch just played the same character all the time, which was awful. And I kind of like that Roddy McDowall said that about his own character in this film. But I feel that I honestly feel that he kind of slammed Vincent Price, because Vincent Price did not have a lot of variance between a lot of his roles. There were some variances there, like the one that they based the movie Legend off of with Will Smith, where he's fighting zombies and he had his German Shepherd. That's based on an old Vincent Price film, and I forget the name of it, but that was a really good
I Am
Vincent
Legend.
film.
Wasn't it called I Am Legend?
Yeah. And that's based on an old movie where Vincent Price is the last human, and he's just killing vampires left and right.
Well, they were more like zombies, but because they could go out and they were irritated by the sun, but they could go in the sun, type of thing. So, yeah, but it was really good. But see, to me, I didn't take that as a diss at all against Vincent Price. To me, I looked at it like he was more of saying it was a diss on the character he was going to portray in the movie, about being a washed-up has-been actor that had a small stint in one or two good movies, and then the rest of his career was all bummer, low, cheap budget crap, and then TV shows, basically. That's how I looked at it.
That might be very well the case, but the way I wrote it first when I was going through this earlier last week, I'm like, what? How dare you besmirch Vincent Price?
Yeah, but I didn't take it that way. I mean, we could ask the chat that's seen the movie whether they felt that or not. But I didn't take it that way.
Mage's Musings completely agrees with you on that. He says, I think it was a slam mainly on the character which Roddy was having to play. It's got one chap who played the same character for 8 or 10 movies, a dreadful actor. And his character came nowhere near Price's level. Price, I felt, was a great actor, but he became typecast into the 70s and 80s, and that kind of was weird. But
well, yeah, he did get typecast because he was so successful at getting those parts and portraying them well, you know. So he was typecast, and I think that's why a lot of people don't want to do horror movies, because they're, like, look at Jamie, what's her name, Jamie Lee Curtis,
Well, I mean, yeah, she was typecast for many years because she was a scream queen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, she very well got over it, especially when James Cameron came at her in 1993 and says, "I've got a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're his wife."
But the thing is, if she hadn't gotten more movies, she probably would have never been able to get out of that. You see what I mean? I loved her in True Lies. I thought she was phenomenal in that. And most of the movies I saw her in, she was really good in. I loved her in Terror Train. Okay. And some of the other scary movies. But the thing is that it depends on the jobs you're able to get after you're in any movie, whether it's as a hero, a superhero, or a horror flick, or a action drama, like, what's his name, the kickboxer that you were talking about the other night. Oh, I can't remember what his name is, but
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. Okay. But see, Jean-Claude Van Damme can't be in anything except for that type of movie, because that's all anyone remembers him for. So, it can be any typecast for anything, any part. It doesn't have to just be a horror movie. It's just not very often, though. Usually it's always, horror, but, like, yo, Adrian, he's famous for that one part, and everybody thinks when you say that, who do they think of? Stallone. So anybody can be stuck in that if that's the type of character they play, no matter what they play in. See, and he seems to have the same demeanor, the same way he does things in everything he's in, just like Nicolas Cage. But then
I've been wrong before. I have no problem admitting I was wrong, but the way it's written, the way that they quoted it, I guess, like.
Well, I can understand. You love Vincent Price, so you would take that as a diss. But see, I love Vincent Price too. But I guess I wasn't just focused on that one thing. To me, I was focused on Roddy McDowall's character and him being a washed-up old actor. Like I said, his hair, to me, right off the bat, was like, I didn't remember it being so fake white looking. When I saw it the first time. I guess when you're younger, when you look at old people and they have white hair, you automatically just think it's old, that they're old or whatever, I guess.
The vibe that I got, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that whenever they were filming Galaxy Quest in 1999 or 1998, I think that the guy that played Hans out of Die Hard, he played the second in command, the science guy that ate bugs in Galaxy Quest.
Yeah. I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah. Extreme memory is wonderful. You had it all on the tip of your tongue until you get on camera, and you're like,
okay. I do that a lot. I just got scatterbrained. I can't remember anything, even though I have notes in front of me. I have to look them up and see their name.
Whenever you're showing off, like, Tim Allen's character in Galaxy Quest has this amazing house in the mountains, beautiful place. And then you have Rickman.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah, Alan Rickman, and he's got this crappy apartment that makes me look like I've got a fucking Mr. Drummond flat at the top of the penthouse suite.
I like that when they did that in that movie, simply for the fact they tried to show everyone out here the difference between being a blockbuster hero, right? Someone who makes a couple movies and they're huge blockbusters because they're action movies or whatever it is. And then you have another man that does dramatic acting, right? He does Broadway and whatever, but it's a very limited amount of people. Those are the movies that win Academy Awards, the boring ones. And he was an actor from that. And then you had the other character was from all the action movies. He's never going to win an Academy Award, but he's going to make bank, right?
They make
So you see
super
the
bang.
difference in their lifestyle due to the amount of money they draw in. So I thought that was great. I thought they did that whole movie was just
That was perfect. And then poor Peter Vincent in this movie, like I said, like his apartment looks super small, and I feel kind of
see.
blessed to have my crappy two-part, 4-bedroom, 4-room apartment.
Mhm.
I've got my 2 hobby
Because
rooms.
he,
I've got a
he did
large
he worked
clean.
all those years and he never really
Yeah,
made a lot of money because it was low budget stuff. It was dramatic, you know, just wasn't blockbuster stuff. So
and
that
here's
was
something
the
that
difference.
I learned
Hmm.
because of this movie. I learned that he was an amateur film archivist,
Hmm.
and he would record as much as he could. He would just like I kind of do this my own self, but like I don't do it everywhere. I do it around my table, and I'll do it around family. If
Hmm.
if there's a family get together, and like when I was a teenager, I always had a camera on my shoulder.
Hmm.
Every fucking thing got recorded, everything. And people used to get pissed off at me. Bruce, put that down. I'm like, no, we're not all going to be here someday, and somebody's going to watch us and start bawling because you're a bitch. And it's like, what? And
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, if you record this stuff, if you record the things that go on around you, and
Hmm.
he's recording stuff that's going on a film set, I bet there's gold in his reels.
Oh, I bet one day we're gonna see a documentary or whatever, and it'll have a lot of the footage that he filmed himself, just like Leonard Nimoy when he did all the photography work that he did.
Hmm.
And his son, I think his son did make a documentary about the stuff that his father did with his photography stuff because that was one of his hobbies. Just because they're a famous actor, I mean, they can't have a hobby. Like what was it, Rosie Greer that used to needlepoint?
Okay,
Okay,
she
is it
didn't
stuff like
needlepoint.
that?
Peter, oh god,
So you know what I mean? So lots of people that are big famous people, basketball players or car drivers or actors or singers, they all have hobbies. I mean, I'm sure most of them have some type of hobby, and the ones that don't, those are the ones that end up not living very long, I
one
think.
of my favorite actors is a man that you all remember as Grand Moff Tarkin, but Peter Cushing
Hmm.
was one of the greatest war gamers that this world has ever known. Excuse me. He's one of the forefathers of the miniature hobbyists, and one
Oh,
of the
he
things he
he
did,
he did what you do.
yeah, he got
Okay,
into Little
see.
Wars. He got into Little Wars big time. If you
Hmm.
do any research on Peter Cushing, you're going to find him painting figures. You're going to find him playing those little games like what we play. They didn't
Yeah.
have this back then, but he could field hundreds of figurines for like Napoleonics. And that's what H.G. Wells created. H.G. Wells not only wrote wonderful books, but they also he also wrote a game called Little Wars, and it was about taking toy soldiers and fielding them on terrain. Maybe just your dining room table. We're going to siege the salt shaker, but that was what you had. I mean,
Hmm.
it took a while for hobbies to get off the ground. Finally in the '60s, tabletop miniatures became a thing, and they started having conventions up north. Because when you're in Texas, there's a thing called a basement that people have, and it's a really really cool thing because it's like an extra house. You put stuff like your washer, your dryer, your furnace, and then you get to do stuff with it. Like you might have one room with a ping pong table or a billiards table. We had both. Mom and dad's house is like 1,800 square feet without the basement. And I loved it because we had like another house underneath it. And one room had the ping pong, one had the billiards. I had a train table in one room. Dad took the other existing half the room, and now he's got a train layout that goes around the exercise equipment.
Oh, so
And
your dad liked the miniature trains?
my dad's a train fanatic.
Oh,
He
I
has
wanted to do that when I was little because my one of my uncles in Maine had a bunch of trains, and I just loved it. I loved the little city, the little town that he worked on and stuff, and the trees and the little mountains. And I could never do it because I had 4 sisters. We only had a 3-bedroom house, and it just wasn't any room for it. So, and plus it was expensive. So I couldn't do it, but I wanted to really bad, but we never could do it because it's very expensive, all those parts and the paint and the time it takes to do all of it. That's a big chunk of change for someone who doesn't have a lot of money. So, yeah.
Theory on why Peter Cushing made the best Grand Moff. He knew what it was like to have a theater and to push the characters around on the table. You're going to come in from the Eastern Front and siege from the direct flank, from the direction which they anticipate. These forces shall come over from the north. He would be doing that. Peter Cushing also introduced George Lucas to Christopher Lee. And he was friends with Christopher Lee. They played games together. Lee was a gamer. Keep that in mind.
Also, remember back in the early times of movies, they used lots of little miniature towns and stuff as the props because it was cheaper for the low budget movies to just have a fake city. And the better you were at it, then you would get a really good cushy payment by helping, do the little city in town, the little cars that move the headlights on them and things like that. You just don't hardly see that anymore. You don't hardly see the claymation anymore unless it's up and coming young people that want to learn how that's done in college. But also with the little miniatures, because remember, we saw that one set in quite a few different movies, futuristic movies, with the little tunnels, the little clear tunnels with the vehicles going through them and stuff. So, whoever built that model, had made pretty good money off making it.
I hope they made good money. That was a lot of fun to watch.
But it was cool. How much fun would it be to be able to do that, to have the money and the space to be able to build a whole futuristic city and then blow up part of it, for a movie and stuff like that? How exciting would that be? I know you would love it because you're really, really good at it. And to see your characters come to life on a little set and film it and stuff, that would be like a dream come true to someone who's into that type of thing. So I could see why Peter Cushing would enjoy it, because he not only got to be an actor and see it on the big screen, he also got to make whole little communities and whatever interaction with his little characters. So I think that's great. It's nice to see other people have different hobbies when they're a famous actor, or singer.
Nature's Museum says something in here that, man, I feel so sorry for you. And I hope your dad eventually unpacked it. He says, my father loved model trains when he was younger, and I loved watching him build them. But some jackass told him one day that it was kid stuff. He took it all to heart, packing it all away for good. That's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. It's sad. I mean, I wish more people could just get to be themselves and not have to worry about trying to fit in or having people accept them for whatever it is, for whatever purpose that someone might think or make fun of them. To me, the person that made fun of them was probably jealous, and that's what a lot of it does. A lot of people make fun of someone else because they're jealous of what they have, or they don't have something like that, and they wish people would look up to them for that. So,
and that's the thing. A lot of us in this chat have been made fun of because we liked something back in the 80s, which it was cool to diss on Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, you were in the cool kids club. You weren't punk rock like D&D players were. D&D players were doing this really fun kind of underground thing. And you have the majority of media saying D&D is bad, it's satanic. And nobody had a sense of history because, like, just 10 years before, they were bemoaning the heavy metal that was coming across the pond from the British heavy metal invasion. And, then, like, back in the 50s and early 60s, people were bitching about comic books, It's just the same miserable, tired people. They're changing people, but it's the same miserable, tired mentality that these people have. They just don't understand, like, you have your hobby. You have this thing which is established. That's cool. We have something a little newer. And in the D&D hobby, one of the greatest movies for documentary purposes,
Mhm.
and I mean that in all seriousness, is called Uber Goober. And it's a fun little film, if there ever was one, because it goes into the history of the hobby. And it starts off chronologically with the war gamers. And it shows off the
Mhm.
war gamers, and it talks about the Napoleonics and all the various board games that led to war games and all that. And it's a fun little thing. And then in the 70s, the war gamers got upset because now there's some new people coming to town and they play a role playing game. Why would you only want to play Gracie Law when you could play 50 goblins with this character right here, you know? And they were
Mhm.
just upset. Like, how can you change your mentality? One figure for one person in the unit? Are you crazy? That's stupid. And
Yeah,
they
I
really
wanted to
feel
play
off their
so
shit.
bad when I was young, and even when I was a young adult, I wanted to play so bad. I just never was able to because everywhere I went, they didn't want me to play because I either didn't have a good enough character yet, or as I got older, or they didn't want to spend the time and effort it took to build me up, and knowing I was just going to leave when we moved because we were in the military. So because nobody I knew that was in the military, you know, that lived next to me or whatever, were involved in any of it. They all made fun of me. I remember I did a book report in school. I think I was fifth or sixth grade, and I did a book report on Morbius, one of my Morbius comic books, and my teacher loved it. I got an A on it, so I was so proud of it. I was so proud. But I remember having a fight with some of the kids that were trying to get my comic book and tear it up. I mean, they were making fun of me, and I remember I think it was the science teacher or somebody that was able to get the comic book back, keep it from getting torn up, because I was crying. I was so upset because that meant so much to me because my dad gave it to me, and I understand what it's like to be picked on for that type of thing, because they don't understand, or they just look at it because a comic book is a stupid book. It's not really a book that you would read, you know what I mean, type of thing. And it was just heartbreaking to me. Even my sisters made fun of me. All my sisters made fun of me because I like comic books, and you know, that's just something you have to put up with. And you know, I grew up past it, and I still love it. But the thing is, I never really stopped doing it because I was worried I was going to get made fun of. I just finally got old enough to where I just said, "F you! I don't care if you like it or not. I just won't hang with you anymore. I'll go do things with those kids over there." And I hung with most of the nerds because they were more fun. The nerds were the fun ones. They were the ones that accepted me the way I was, and I didn't expect them to be anything but who they were, and they were fun to be with. So, you know, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I got to live that part of my life and realize who I could count on and who I couldn't. The jocks were not to be counted on because they didn't care about you. Neither did the cheerleaders. They were all assholes. That's how I looked at it. Until my senior year, when I went out for the cheerleading squad and I was accepted and I made it. And I didn't hang with them though. I played games with them and stuff, but I still wasn't friends with them. So they didn't want me to be on the team, but I didn't care. I still went to the games. I did all my stuff, but I would go after the game was over. I hung out with my friends. So yeah, that's the way it should be. I just wish more people could do that. I wish more people could encourage their kid to, if they're into arts and crafts, let them do something. If a boy wants to know how to sew and make costumes because he wants to dress up like Neo, you know, for the Matrix, let him. You know, that kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Because lots of people that, you know, are able to do those things end up making movies, doing movie props or costumes and stuff. You can make a lot of money doing it, especially if you can get in the right, you know, into the right realm, whatever, the right group of people.
But before we delve back into miniatures, or excuse me, into vampires, I do want to say that I watched a movie for another friend. A couple weeks ago, we watched Evil Dead 2 and did a
Mm-hmm.
review on that on Nick Weiser's channel. And I forgot about the miniature set at the start of the movie where it shows the '88 Delta Oldsmobile from 73 go along the bridge, and you have that tangled mass of girders that's just there like a hand. And that miniature set looks so cool, even though, yeah, it's a miniature set. It conveys the desolation and the feeling of isolation so well. And I really like that part. That movie is just such a fun exercise just to go back in time and be like, oh my god, look at these practical effects. And this movie here was made a few years before Evil Dead 2, and this movie's practical effects really stunned the hell out of me. I was very shocked. I was very excited to just keep watching and keep taking it in, because I hadn't seen this in 30 years. And in 30 years, I went from, oh wow, computer graphics are kind of cool, to I'm falling asleep here. And that kind of happens with Marvel films whenever the big ending starts to happen. I just see ones and zeros on the screen. I'm like, oh fuck this. Somebody that's not talented made this shit. And I pass out. Like, I passed out the first time I watched Captain America at the very end, whenever he crashes the wing into the Antarctic Ocean. And then, there's other films that are not as good as Captain America where I've passed out in the theater as well. Sleeping is a fun joy for me. I like it better than staying awake through something I'm not getting anything out of this. Practical effects, lost art, completely lost art. And I absolutely love watching this film as you see all the transformations happen. Even the cross burning itself into Evil Ed's forehead, that was great.
One of the things that that really stood out to me when the first time I watched this movie was the fact that the Dracula was able to reach out and grab the cross and crush it in his hand, and he laughed, that hideous laugh, and said, "That won't work because you don't have faith." When he said that part about, you have to have faith for this to work on me. I remember being so creeped out by that because, who would ever think that that having a cross standing there wouldn't be protection? If you didn't feel it in your heart, then it didn't mean anything. You see what I mean? It was a useless piece of art, basically hanging on the wall, unless you had the faith behind it. You know what I mean? I just thought that was a really good line for the movie. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now, because honestly, you're in a position like Charlie was, where he was the only one that believed it was a vampire. A real vampire lived next door. And if his mother had picked up the cross and, tried to use it, she would have died, because she didn't believe he was a vampire. You know what I mean? That whole thing. And then the fact that when he opens up his compact and he sees that there's no reflection, and it startles him, and he drops it on the ground, and he picks it back up, trying to act like he's fine, there's nothing going on, and he gets them to believe that so they can leave. But when Dandridge walks across his living room and steps on that piece of glass, he realizes that he knows. So now they all have to die. So they all instantly become, fodder or food for later, or whatever you want to call it. But because, they were not very good at hiding what the truth was, which is they all believed it now. So that was a really, really intense scene for me, I thought, with those characters.
The
But
very end of the film, how did you like the way they finally got rid of Dandridge? How did you like that, Janet?
I thought it was a really good way to end the movie.
I watched it a couple times after we ended the stream and the chat, the conversation last night on Discord. I went back and watched the fight a few more times, and I was really impressed with how it flowed together very well. There was a little bit of that, which I saw kind of inspired a John Carpenter's vampire film from like 1999, I think, with James Woods. And that wasn't done with as much panache, but I still enjoy James Woods as a vampire hunter, because they do a lot of work in that movie and special effects to make James Woods look cool. He's not, but they did the work. He looks cool in that movie, or he tries to be.
I think he looks cool in everything he does. He's just a really good actor. Just like we talked about, there's a few actors here and there that we get to see on the screen, and they dazzle. You know, for some reason they get the right part. It's just like their part is not forgettable. You know what I mean? No matter what movie they're in, they just have something about their character, even if the movie's shit. You remember them as that character, and that character is not a dark stain on the movie. You know what I'm saying? So whenever you think about that movie, you think of that one character because you really liked them, even though the movie was shit. You still thought that actor was awesome in it. And I see that with James Woods and everything he does, just like Alan Rickman. You know, different characters he was. I just thought he was phenomenal as an actor. You know. Can't.
Just a quick question, Janet. What is your favorite James Woods movie?
Oh God, I don't know. I'd have to think about it for a few minutes. There's so many of them. Let me think for a second. I'll give you a few minutes, and then I'll think of it, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's a guilty pleasure of mine. Six Nations. That's one of my absolute, like, I can't go a year without watching it once at least. And I know there's a lot of films that qualify for that. It's fall now, so I will be watching Big Trouble in Little China again here pretty soon. But
again, but how many times is this going to be?
We're not counting that, Janet. We're in the triple digits for that movie. Easy triple digits. Painting up Grace Law now. I think I probably could have done a little bit better work on Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like my Egg Shin.
I think both of them are excellent. What's the other one on the table?
This one here?
Mm-hmm.
That's Grace. That's the lady that Kurt Russell says no to. He doesn't kiss her goodbye. At the very end, they're like, "Aren't you going to give her a kiss goodbye?" It's like, nah. Greatest movie ever. Still the greatest movie ever. There's supposed to be a comic sequel I'll have to look for. Grumpy's like, I like the first Avenger, but I understand the people who don't. The comics before it brought the first Avenger to life. And it could have been better paced. There's a lot. Like, I think if Marvel would have just looked at how the Rocketeer was paced, that's probably an overlooked classic superhero film. But we'll do the Rocketeer in 2024, barring nuclear holocaust. Oh man. Lady one for 1999. For James Woods, I'd like to nominate Indictment, McMartin Trail. McMartin Trail. I have to Google this. Okay, so that's a 1995 film.
Sorry, I'm getting a drink.
You're good. You're good. Lady, how's this sound for January, sir? Let me know if you want to do this for January. We'll be more than happy to have you. James Woods, James Cromwell, Shirley Knight, Henry Thomas, Chelsea Field, Mark Bloom, Richard Bradford, Sada Thompson, Allison Elliott. Yeah, we're gonna find this. Definitely find it, and it's on. Holy cow! It's on everything. Cool.
Mm.
It's about the 1980s Satanic Panic, and that's a set date for January. Awesome. Yeah, I was thinking about doing Sci-Fi Month for January, but can set that back to March and get some real not Sci-Fi Month, Blade Runner, Screamers, a few other Philip K. Dick novels. Yes, I just heard Janet destroy that liquid.
Sorry, I was really thirsty. You remember,
I
I doubled up on my decongestant so beforehand, and I drank one of these little drinks, and I was had to open a thing and get me another one because remember I was trying to drink through a straw before my tooth fell out. So, oh well, sorry. They almost lasted a whole hour. That's really good. But oh well, sorry. I don't know. There was a movie with Gary Sinise. I'm trying to remember the name of it with James Woods, and I really liked that movie, but I cannot remember the name of it. I think it came out in the late '80s.
Gary Sinise and
I think it was Gary Sinise. It reminded me of Gary Sinise, but I remember James Woods was in that movie, and it was pretty good. But he's good in, he plays a very I don't know, can't explain it.
My Name is Bill W.
I don't know. Wait, let me hold on. Give me a second.
The movie that came up is My Name is Bill W.
My Name is Bill W.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because my mom wanted to see a movie because I think it had James Garner in it. Hold on.
Williams. It's the story of Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous.
I think that might be it. And I watched it with my mom because my mom loved James Garner and she wanted to see everything with James Garner in it. That was one. It's not my typical type of movie, but every movie I got to watch with my mom, I don't know why. I remember those movies, it seems like. Trying to remember, but I think that might be it. I mean, it was a very dramatic movie that my mom liked. But I just remember Gary Sinise's part. And the other one with the vampires, I'm terrible with names. I'm so sorry. That was a really good. He did a great job in that one, too.
It's all right.
And the vampires were hot. At least the vampire women were.
The vampire women were hot. The main vampire guy was that towering beast of a man that ends up in season 6 of Cobra Kai. The big tall guy that just beats the hell out of Ralph Macchio. He was in Karate Kid 3.
Yeah.
Thomas Griffith, I think. Anyway.
I don't know. I'm not very good with names.
He's just a hulking beast. He's not super muscular. He's lean, but he looks like a very deadly individual.
There was a movie I remember, and it was a kung fu movie, and they had to fight their way through the different levels up to the upstairs. I can't remember. I don't remember the name of it. That's what I'm saying. But it had like a famous basketball player that was in a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's Game of Death. You're talking about Game of
Death. I just remember watching that with my dad, and I thought that was a really kick butt movie, but I can't remember what the name of it is, and I don't remember a lot about it. I guess other things were going on at the time, but I just remember that movie being really good. And my sister and we started taking karate classes and stuff after we saw that movie. We were real little. I don't remember how old we were, but Sandy would always start crying when we'd start fighting. So I'd always get in trouble. But
I can only imagine that you would beat up on Sandy.
Yeah, I did.
That's all I can think of right now is that Janet was being a bully.
Well, she was a shrimp, and she's still short. She's still way shorter than I am. So.
Yeah, Julius Irving is who you're thinking of. He was in Game of Death. Dr. J, if I remember right.
Yeah, my dad liked a lot of the kung fu movies. The very first movie I think I told you about that I saw was some kung fu
Right.
guy
It
and
was
he
not,
had a
it was
baby.
not Dr. J, my bad. It was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Or
Oh,
Kareem
okay, yeah. And he had another guy, another kickboxing guy, kung fu guy, and he had he to me whenever I saw Samurai Taylor on Saturday Night Live with John Belushi, it reminded me of the samurai, and he had the baby in a wagon. Remember that? That was the very first one I ever saw, and it was like on a Saturday afternoon or something, and I was watching it with my dad on TV, and I think it was in black and white. I can't even remember, but I remember watching that, and I thought that was so cool. The weapons and stuff that they use in those movies. So I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. And who's in that movie?
Bruce Lee and
Lee?
Kareem
Okay.
Abdul-Jabbar.
Well, I just remember it was really, really good.
Yeah.
There's a
It's
lot of
amazing.
action in it. My dad liked it a lot. Because my dad didn't really watch sports. He wasn't into football or we watched the Olympics, but he was into old movies and old TV shows and stuff. So that's what I watched with my dad most of the time. And cartoons. He liked a lot of different cartoons.
What was your dad's favorite cartoon, Janet?
It was a movie. It was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. You have to ask Sandy about it one day. Let her tell you too, because we laughed at my dad watching the movies. So that was the one I remember him watching over and over again. He loved that movie. If you guys remember with Ichabod Crane, the scene where Ichabod's trying to get away from the headless horseman.
Yes.
Says Sandy about that one day when you get a chance, because we would laugh at my dad, not even watching the movie, just laugh because he was so funny laughing at Ichabod. So that was a good movie.
Okay. Bruce Lee, Magus Musings remembers it properly. They were working on that movie when Lee was having the problems and he just died. And so they finished it post-mortem and they used doubles and they kept the fight scenes Lee had already filmed. And so the result of the movie is not nearly as good as what it should have been.
So he died during that movie?
Yeah. That's the movie he died during. If you ever watched Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, it goes into a little bit of that.
We can watch. Can we do that? Could we watch that one time?
Sure.
That would be a really good movie to watch, don't you think?
Okay. I just want you to know that I haven't set up all of November yet, but we're going to do Patrick Flannery. And then December's coming up. We could put Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, because that's a very heartwarming movie.
I sent you a list. I sent you a list. I sent you a list for the Patrick Flannery.
I got the list.
But you said you were going to change the last one to the other movie.
Yeah, I want to change Boondock Saints Part 2 to
Yeah.
Suicide Kings because I think you'll like Suicide Kings more.
I haven't seen Suicide
Kings.
I haven't
Boondock
seen
Saints Part 2 is okay. It's okay. It's like Game of Death quality okay. It's not great. If you like this level of schlock, this is your schlock. But Suicide Kings is an actual film with actors and locations, and Christopher Walken's in it, and they cut off his finger, and that's all I'm going to say.
Who gets her finger cut off?
Christopher Walken.
Oh.
Our great friend. Damn. I forgot his name already, too, didn't I? Cardinal Sin did a wonderful.
Oh, yeah. I played that on my show because that was the very first live stream I ever saw him in when he did that. And I thought it was phenomenal. He sounded, and when you closed your eyes, it sounded just like him.
Yeah, he did.
To me.
Our friend, Lady, the Dirty Campaigner, is headed off to bed. So,
good night. Good night, Lady. Thank you for stopping in.
Restful sleep. Wake up tomorrow. and go at it full tilt. Thank you, sir, for everything you've done. We look forward to you this weekend. That's something else I should talk about real quick. We do have memberships available on this channel. By no means do I want all of you to go out and grab them now. You can, you don't have to. I'm doing everything I can to try to get content available for my members first. A lot of them are involved with a Saturday. Every other Saturday, we do an alpha test on the game that I'm creating or assembling rules from other systems, and doing everything I can to keep them entertained, appreciate them and their faith and when they put in me, and I'll do everything I can to keep them happy. I don't know what else to do as a creator, but I'm trying my best with this rule set, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. You get to see Janet and the Cigar DM and a bunch of other people that are pretty prominent on my channel, like Flady. He's actually there. Six Nation 31 Kings, and the Crafting Gamer, the man who handed Soy-Based Jeremy his membership tonight.
Oh, I haven't seen. I was going to say, tell Tree Rock Creations. I haven't seen that series, so I guess I'm going to put it on my list to start watching, because I really do like James Woods, and I bet he's good in it. It's a mini series. He said Holocaust.
Okay.
That I need to watch, but I wanted to bring this up if you're done. I didn't know. I was reading in this stuff that said that they were focusing all their attention on John Travolta, Jamie Lee Curtis's film Perfect, which they were certain was going to be a blockbuster. They never came to the set. And he says, I was left alone. I was totally my film without studio interference. A few mishaps did occur during filming, including an incident in which Ragsdale broke his ankle while running down the staircase. So he basically he could do whatever he wanted. So he had pretty much open leeway when he was making this movie. So I think that's really good, considering that his vision was almost identical, I guess, with the writers. So they didn't butt heads over it. So when you have that, it's like I said, when we were talking about, remember when we did Tombstone and a few others about what makes a movie seem like it flows together? It's when all of the people involved in the high parts of the movie all see the same thing and want the same thing. So they all let each other do their jobs, and it works good. And editing, everyone can envision the ending. So when you have that, it's going to be very successful. And I think that they did that in this movie, even though, the budget wasn't really high or anything. You could tell that all of the people, even Sarandon, that didn't know whether or not he wanted to play this vampire part because he was worried that he would be typecast, right? You could tell that he cared about this character and that he put everything he had into it. You know what I mean? To make it as believable as possible, to be sexy and sensual, but easygoing, like just a normal Joe that lives in this fancy house next door, that travels all over the world, and then also be the villain, and be attracted to a young woman that's barely legal. She's probably not even legal. So, that whole thing, I would love to see some behind the scenes stuff. If Roddy McDowall has that, the parts where he stripped down, took off his shirt and everything, and got on the floor and was making out with a young actress portraying a teenage girl, right? And she was a virgin or whatever type thing. I just thought that whole scene was very. I remember when I saw it, I was very. I mean, my heart was pounding, and but I was obsessed with vampires anyway. So my mother took all my comic books away and stuff because I was, trying to bite all my sisters and, that kind of stuff. I just thought vampires were the coolest thing ever. So she was trying to keep me from, and she wouldn't let me have a Ouija board, all that stuff. My mom was very afraid that we were going to become, in a cult or something. I don't know what she thought, but I was obsessed with vampires, and I still am. I mean, my book's about vampires. and I love vampire movies, that type of thing. So I can see why my mom thought that she better put a leash on me. But I thought that scene was very, very hot. It was a good hot scene for a young girl to see. Turn you on to the thought of getting to make out with a handsome older gentleman. I guess you could say that.
I can understand that, and I mean, there's a there's something about, you know, as an older gentleman, whenever a 20-year-old or 25-year-old woman at a bar comes up to you and starts talking to you about like, what are we doing tonight? And you're like, what's your name? Like, well, I still am drinking this beer. I didn't realize you existed. What are we doing tonight? Excuse me. I get it, because a lot of guys like to hit on younger women. That there's a whole mythos as to why, is or a whole reason scientifically as to why we do, but it's an interesting thing to have happen, and I don't appreciate it all the time. But whenever I was in the oil field, and I had nothing else going on until 3 a.m. the next morning. Okay, sure, yeah, I've got time. Let's go. And that was how that is. It just kind of happened. Um, a young woman will go to an older guy for a lot of things, and as you get older, you realize this. You're kind of buttered about it when you're 25, 30. What the hell is wrong? I went to school with her, and she's dating a guy her dad's age.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people I know that qualify for that statement there. They did that when they were young. But, that just happens. Girls always want a guy that's experienced, if not, very protective, very much, a father-like or patron-like figure. And, he's there to protect, and he's there to do
Well,
things.
there was a song that was famous. I can't remember the name of it right this second. Something about someone's mom's got it going on. I can't remember the name of it right this second. Mom. Okay, well, I think it's a normal. If I think about it, I think it's normal for young women and young men to look up to the older person. I'm not saying, geriatric age or anything like that. I'm saying someone who might be 10 years older is more mature in a sexual way, especially when you're first starting to get those, feelings, the little tingling and whatever, the butterflies in your stomach or whatever type thing. And as I got older, I had younger guys that would come on to me and stuff. So, I worked in the JC's haunted house a few times, and I'd wear, a skin tight black bodysuit crawling around on the floor with a white wig, and claws or whatever, as a vampire bride or whatever, and different things. And I got hit on a lot by young guys, that were like, 17 years old and stuff like that. And I was like, sorry, buddy, you're too young. But it was flattering, and that's why you have so many young men and women that really like their teachers. They become obsessed with their teacher, and they do well. You do well in school. It's like your best grade that you make because you got a thing for your teacher. So there's lots of songs and stuff about that kind of feelings, because that happens to everyone. I don't think that's not happened to anyone. If you're a normal, hot-blooded person, you're going to have feelings like that. I think that's a normal thing that all of us go through when you're a teenager. So when I watched it, I didn't think it was obscene or dirty or anything. I just thought it was like, it was very realistic to me, that whole thing with her, making out, with Charlie at their house, at his house, that type of thing. That's normal. Lots of my friends used to do that. So the fact that they did it in the movie, to me, was perfectly normal. And the fact that the older man saw a young woman that looked so much like the woman he was in love with. And what does every young woman want? Romance. They want to one day fall in love, get married, and have the house with the picket fence, and the dog running in the yard or whatever. That's all we think about when you're a teenage girl, that one day that's going to happen, that's going to happen.
It's
get it.
marketed to you. You're bombarded with it.
Yeah.
You're hit with that when you're a little girl, and then you watch a
Mhm.
bunch of Disney films and Prince Charming's coming your way.
And Barbie, you know,
Oh my God,
Barbie,
Barbie.
everything about Barbie is nothing about everything about wanting to one day have your own house and your own car, and you dress nice and you're pretty and you keep your house clean, and all that stupid stuff, but it's all real. That's what you think about. Just
I
like
was
I sent you that song today, because I wanted you to hear it, because honestly, when I listened to it, I listened to it like 6 times. It made me really think about my dad and other men in my life of I wish men could say those things. I wish a man could tell women that that's how they feel. And I think that's why young men and women are attracted to older people when they're teenagers, when they're first starting to get those feelings of sexual tension or whatever you want to call it, because they want to share it with somebody they think will understand and teach them something. You see what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense. So
makes sense.
if you're fumbling around with another person that has no idea what they're doing, you're going to knock heads and probably rip your clothes, or who knows what's going to happen. So you want to be gently eased into it with someone who knows what they're doing. I mean, to me, I think that's a normal thought process. So to see Amy laying on the ground when she wakes up, okay, from the spell that she was under, and she's chained, her clothes are chained. So apparently him or the other guy, but I don't think he'd let the other guy do it, because he didn't seem like he'd let that other guy near Amy. You know what I mean? His helper, his Renfeld or
I
whatever.
don't think Cole got anywhere near Amy at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So he was very possessive of her, and you could just tell, at least in the movie, he seemed gentle with her. He was very like he's crushing Charlie's hand right there. Remember, he's got his hand, he's squeezing it, and you can hear his bones breaking, basically being crunched. But he's gently holding her. He's like, I don't know. To me, that's what. To me, maybe that's why I was so enamored with him, because I felt like he, no matter what a beast he might be with everyone else, he was never going to be that way with her. He was going to always treat her like she was a goddess. And what does every woman want? They want to be number one. They want to be swept off their feet. They want to be treated with like they're the best thing that ever walked on the planet, and that they're going to live forever together. That type of thing. The theme in almost all, but like with Nina in the Dracula movies, and then on Twilight, all those different stories, you have the young vampire couple that fall in love, and they're going to live an eternity. So you would want someone you really love and want to be with. You wouldn't want to spend an eternity with someone that's nagging you all the time, right? So I don't know. You know what I mean? So you would think that you would look for somebody that makes you feel young and virile, and just want to, rip each other's clothes off whenever you're, alone together. I would want that for eternity. So, why would I waste my time getting some fluffy-dovey that's, boring, that's not fun, or isn't interested in what I'm interested in? You want someone that's nice to look at, but wants to do all the things that you want to do, for the rest of your lives, because you're going to live a long time, hopefully. So to me, I just was swept up in all that, because I thought it was very romantic. Sorry, I'll shut up for a little bit and let you talk.
Well, you're fine. You hit it on the head. The only thing I really have to add is that just a lot of women have this desire where they want to like be the woman that their spouse or their boyfriend confides in, and he tells them all the things that make him ache and hurt. And the one thing I found in my time is that don't ever do that. Like you can tell your wife or girlfriend, like, I gotta go. I've got to take care of some things. Don't give them any information as to what's eating you, unless like, they probably know what it is. Like I'm a firefighter and I saw a kid get his head cut off by a tractor accident the other day, or I work at a shop and I saw a kid have a mistake with a piece of machinery, and I've got to be having these mandated hours from human resources I have to spend with a therapist now, because they want to make sure that there's nothing wrong with me. And so I just have to go. Never tell a woman your inner thoughts and like all your vulnerable spots. You will dry that vagina up so fast, and she will leave you.
Well, so does that mean that men don't want to hear anything about women's intimate
Men
stuff?
don't mind. We're expected to hear that. We're expected to be there and
But
stand by
why?
while women
Why do you
because
think that men are expected to hear it?
because
Because
that's
women
just what
don't
you're
ever shut
supposed
up.
to do. You're supposed to do that. If Janet, you're there with with your beloved, and he gets home from work or he's done in the shop or the garden or whatever he's
Mhm.
doing, and you've had a hell of a day. You had to fight traffic, and some young punk cut you off, and then you've shattered your your corkscrew on the wine bottle, and now you can't even have anything nice to drink. Your husband can't go out and fix it for you. He can't go out and beat up people in traffic. He can't
Mm-mm.
go get you a new corkscrew. He's
Mm.
expected to mud puddle with you. He's expected to just let you sit there and whine and complain and slap the mud puddle impotently and splash around like, I had a bad day. And men are supposed to do that. That's what we're supposed to do.
Well, why can't you sit on the couch and rub each other's feet? You see what I mean?
If a woman lifts
Put
up
your
a guy's
feet on each
feet,
other's
I'll
laps and rub each other's feet and talk to each
rubbing a man's feet is okay. It's completely permissible. Giving a man a
other.
back rub, completely permissible. Could save you money. Um, Having your husband confide in all of his deepest, darkest secrets, give
Well,
the
he doesn't have to
military,
do his deepest, darkest. He could just say, "I had a shitty day. This guy was a
yeah,
dick.
yeah, and
Lunch
let
sucked.
him go through the special.
I dropped my thermos. Whatever. You pick and choose. Because I guarantee you that women don't tell you every detail about stuff that's going on with them
No,
either.
probably not. Probably
I don't
not.
think they do.
There's it's just that guys, the way it works is that the moment you expose yourself, your vulnerability to a woman, unless she's got a kink like that, like I want a man to tell me about his military sexual trauma, and then I'll breastfeed him. Like unless
Most
they're
people
exactly
don't even
like,
think about that stuff.
yeah,
When you meet each other, you're not even thinking about what kind of trauma has this person been through. You're just not thinking of that. You're thinking about what's their favorite book, what's their favorite color, what's their favorite song, did they ever have a dog? Stuff like that. Normal things, not
normal
about
things. Is he
traumas.
getting kids? Does he like dogs? Does he have a riding lawnmower? Does he have a Craftsman or a John Deere? Does he
Did he
prefer
like
corn
comic
or beef?
books? Did he read
Yeah,
comic books when he was young?
yeah. It's
That type of stuff. At least that's what I would ask. I remember asking a guy one time, "Do you know how to use a yo-yo?" I remember asking that because I never learned how to do it. I never had anyone in my house that could do it. And I remember one of my first guys I dated could do all those tricks, make it like walk the dog and do the little. It was amazing to me. I could watch him do that for an hour. I thought it was just super neat, and I tried and tried, and I just never figure out how to do it. But to me, that was interesting. That kind of stuff. I know maybe I'm just weird, but oh well. I just remember that. I thought that was really neat. So, because I still can't do it, but
I
I guess I'm normal.
there is an interesting film that came out in '88. There's a sequel to this movie, and Herb Jaffe, the producer, he retained screen rights. He was unhappy that the budget got slashed pretty bad, but Chris Sarandon and himself, Chris Sarandon and Holland were tied up making Child's Play and couldn't commit. The director, Tommy Lee Wallace, sought out Holland for advice, and Sarandon visited set while they were shooting. Stephen Jeffries, was approached to reprise the role of Evil Ed. He did not like the script, and he was instead offered the lead for 976 Evil. It was scheduled to shoot at the same time, so he opted to take that instead. Amanda Bierce read an early draft of the script that included Amy, but she was too busy with her TV series Married with Children. A new woman, played by Tracy Lind, one of my old crushes of the '80s, was written for Charlie Brewster. In the end, only Ragsdale and McDowell reprise their roles, and a new set of villains is in. There was a Resurrection that came out, or Fright Night that came out in 2011. I've not seen it. and I haven't checked it out too much, but I've heard good things. So that was with Anton Yelchin and Toni Collette as his mother, transported from Iowa to a Las Vegas suburb. Imogen Poots is a is Amy, and Evil Ed is played by Christopher Plaze. So Peter Vincent was played by David Tennant, and he was modeled after Chris Angel. The Billy Cole character was omitted. Jerry Dandridge was played by Colin Farrell, and he's no longer the lovelorn vampire. He's the fucking shark from Jaws, as it says on Wikipedia.
One of the things that I read was, remember us talking about the contacts, because they looked very thick. They just looked like they were agonizing to wear where they were. They said they made special sets for Sarandon to wear, and for what was her name that played Amy? Beard. Yeah, she wore them, and she would cry after she took them out because she could only wear them for a very short amount of time. And when they finally got the last scene filmed with her, and I think it was 3 different scenes that she had to wear them, that she was crying afterward, and they realized they never did sand the inside of them.
Oh, no.
She had scratches all on her eyes, and so did Sarandon. So they didn't do a very good job at making sure that the contacts were what they needed, because they specially painted them and stuff. And Sarandon wore one set for 40 minutes, and he almost fell down the stairs 4 or 5 times because he couldn't see. It's basically as blind as a bat. So, little things like that. But man, you could tell that they looked really scary. They looked really scary, and but they looked painful, I thought. When I first saw the movie, I didn't, because, you don't know that stuff when you're a kid. You're not paying attention to that. But this time when we watched it, I was like, wow, those just look like they're in agony. And they were, because they must have hurt really, really bad when I was reading about her crying and stuff afterward because they hurt so bad. So, and that is when Sarandon, he said he was sitting when they were trying to film those one scenes with Charlie and Amy scenes, that Sarandon was sitting in a chair, and he wasn't allowed to do a lot because he had, he had his stuff on, his makeup and stuff on his face and stuff. So he wasn't really supposed to do much because they didn't want him to sweat and all that. Well, that's when he started playing with the makeup and stuff and working on different prosthetics, and stuff like that, because he was talented in that area. So that was something I read about this movie when I was looking up the information. So it was just interesting how much you don't know about people, because you just watch the movie and you just go on with your life. You don't think nothing of it. But getting to do what we're doing has been really fun, because I've learned a lot about different people that I would even thought about. So I think it was really cool to know that that she went through so much stuff, and they were lucky. I mean, they could have been blinded. They got scratched just right in the eye, they would have lost their sight. So you don't realize that making a movie and putting contacts in can make you blind and never be able to see. So I thought that was very interesting.
Before we go on scores, for those of you that are still with us, and thank you for staying with us for an hour and 40 minutes, at our hour and 43 minutes, go ahead and give your scores for us in the chat, if you could, if you remember this movie. And if you didn't like the movie, that's fine. We'll still read the scores out and any commentary you have. Janet, what do you rate this movie?
I give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Solid 8 out of 10. That's badass.
Well, I was about to give it an 8.5, but the whole thing not being explained about how he was able to have clothes on when he changed into a bat and fly around, especially when the other guy couldn't. He was naked when he changed back into a boy. He was nude. So to have one character do it and one character not, I just thought that was it was too hard, because there was no explanation for it. So that took it away from me.
Okay. Our friend Mage's Musings, Sean, says, I loved this movie as a kid too. I give it a 7 out of 10 for the nostalgia. Tree Rock Creation says I give it a 7, and I'm assuming a 7 out of 10. Awesome One says 8. Fantastic. So far, this movie's scoring pretty high. It really is doing well.
Well, what's your rating?
I'm going to give this movie a 80 out of 100. 8 out of 10, 80 out of 100. I usually go on the 100 scale.
Yeah.
It has a good set of pacing. The first and second act are really well done. They build towards the conclusion very well. The characters are nice and they are appropriate for the times. Amanda Bierce was a surprise to watch in this movie because I was watching Married with Children quickly afterwards. And I mean, the same week I watched this movie or recorded it to Betamax, she was on Married with Children, and that was kind of interesting to watch because she's got the little mousy brown-haired guy that she had the first husband.
Yeah.
Who later wrote
I
him
can't
out.
remember his name, but I remember who you're talking about.
Yeah, I like Jefferson as her second husband. I thought that was a good switch for her. I didn't like him as much, but for her character, I thought it was good because him and Al spent some time at the strip bar. Quality time together.
Yeah.
I'd say it's an 8 out of 10 for a lot of reasons. 8 out of 10 for Six Nation 31 Kings. He says 8 out of 10. It hit all the right notes. The cast and crew gelled just right, and it's just freaking awesome. Watch it. Yeah, the part of this movie that for me sells it still in 2023, 38 years after its release. On the night before Halloween, I'm talking about this film because this is a movie that I watched it as a young kid and it kind of scared me. The prosthetics and special effects were really well done. The ending is a little weak, in my opinion, because I don't understand why a vampire would have windows in his basement next to his coffin. That just makes no sense.
That's why they painted him, because he bought the house. You know, you have to take what you can get.
They just moved in, but this is a time where, like, the vampire tells his manservant, I will stay inside the cabinet of the casket if you will do me the favor of quickly getting some plywood and making some amends, fix the basement. Then I will come out and I'll be hungry.
See, remember, they hadn't been there that long, too. They weren't in the house very long. Remember, he wasn't finished unpacking.
He was moving in at the start of the film.
Yeah, so that to me, that wasn't a problem because they just painted the windows because they hadn't had time to do all that stuff. But you saw wood and nails and all that type of stuff down in the basement.
They were getting ready, maybe, but
I think that it probably would have made it a little safer for him down there. And plus, you know, he's a narcissistic vampire. Why would he think that anybody's ever going to come down there and hurt him in any way? You know, he could just make a window flip open like that with nails sticking in it because he's so powerful. So I don't know. To me, that wasn't the problem at all. And my favorite scene.
Don't move into it.
My favorite scene in the movie was the scene where Roddy McDowall gets to watch the evil transform from a boy into a monster and then into a monster into a boy.
Yeah,
when he's stabbed in the chest. And that, to me, that the sound effects and everything, and that was the scariest part for me in the movie.
That was the part where the preacher from across the street, like, who never liked horror movies, who felt that everything supernatural was an exact extension from Satan's will. And like, if you watch werewolf movies, you're going to hell. If you watch Dracula, you're going to hell. If you watch Dr. Frankenstein make a monster, you're going to hell. Like, this guy was like brimstone and fire for everything if it's not out of the King James version of the Bible. And he saw this movie because I had it playing when he decides to visit because he lives catty corner across the road. He's like, oh, I just haven't seen you in church. Oh, you're watching a vampire movie. Of course you are. And then he sees that and he's like, I think I may have to get that just so I can accentuate, you know, this is what happens when you sell your soul to evil. And I'm like, oh God. And we never went to that church again. We never
Well,
went to that church. It was catty corner to my house.
yeah.
For my parents still live there. They've not gone to that church except for like a funeral or the occasional, like, there's a special event going on that's not related to the Sunday church. And that pastor's long gone. He might be dead now. This was in
Mhm.
like 89. And he wanted to, like, use that movie as an example of why worshiping Satan's bad, and watching movies like this will turn you into a monster. Then you'll get killed by some old warrior of Christ, and it's like, I'm done. I'm done, Pastor Ceased. I'm done.
Well, the one thing that that another reason why I gave it a lower score wasn't because of the basement windows or anything. It was because he had a young boy, okay, that crashed through the railing from upstairs in Brewster's house, right? And he lands on the ground and he crawls under the stairs and he transforms into a gooey mess back into the boy, right? And you see the cross disappear off his forehead, and then he leaves. And all of a sudden, now you see Amy and Charlie laying on the bed in his room, and it's all repaired and everything. But you don't hear anything about, you're not seeing a news account or a newspaper article laying on the table talking about a murder, or anything. It was like all of a sudden everything's fixed, and the mom paid for it or whatever. This is a struggling single mom. To me, it was just all cleaned up. Everything was all taken care of, and there was no explanation for any of it. So, little things like that is the reason why I didn't give it a higher score than an 8, because there was too many gaps. There was too many things that happened, and they tidied it all up, and you never got any answers for it. So to me, that was one of the reasons I just wanted to explain why I gave it an 8.
I'm not upset you gave it an 8. I gave it an 8 as well. My reasons for giving it an 8 are mainly the manservant. I feel was very much wasted in this movie. He could have been a bigger threat. He could have been a better force for competency, which I don't think he was.
Yeah.
I think literally he came out of the Skeletor handbook for henchmen. Like he saw the shit that Beastman did in the cartoon, and he's like, I can do that. And Skeletor's like, no, you boob, don't be an incompetent fool. And
Yeah.
I swear, like that was this guy throughout the entire movie. He just made mistake after mistake after mistake, and I was not impressed with Billy Cole. Like if he said, Bruce, I want to be your henchman. I want to be the guy that cleans up the garage after you have a party. I want to be the guy that carries your friend to her bed or to the couch and lets her sleep. I'm not gonna fuck with her. I'm just gonna be some schlup, and I'll make sure you're
He was
taken
the
care
one
of.
that disposed of the bodies afterward and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
like got
Renfield.
rid of the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one thing if you're competent and you can get rid of bodies, like have pigs. Pigs
Well,
are
you'd
good.
think that they'd have like a couple of big barrels in the basement filled with acid or something.
No, I didn't see none of that.
I know, but I'm just saying, you'd think that if they're planned out to where you're in the middle of a neighborhood, but you don't have anywhere you can't bury the bodies because you have a small yard, so you have to have somewhere to get rid of them.
True.
I don't know. So it was just little things like that that didn't connect. Is why I had a hard time with. But the special effects weren't it, and the acting was good. So there was most of it was really good. It was just little technical dumb things that they could have fixed. In maybe 2 days of filming, and they could have had it all taken care of. But apparently, it didn't seem like it mattered that much.
Yeah, this is about the same time frame where you have mistakes being made for, ice pirates. That's just my favorite one to bring up because that's the one where the studio head himself is like, fuck this movie. And he
Yeah.
completely sabotages it from start to finish.
Yeah, mostly through editing, from what I could tell, because they definitely had plenty of footage that they could have done things. And then when the director was talking about the scene that he wanted from the water planet, right? people on the beach and stuff like that. And he filmed it, but it just didn't get in there like he wanted. So to me, that was all the editor going in and trying to make the movie as shitty as they could, because they didn't want it to be successful for this director. They wanted this director to not have a success under his belt. But I didn't see that in this one. To me, the editing seemed very good.
Tom Holland did a good job writing the script and then directing the movie. I thought he did really good with that. I'd like to see his storyboards. I know there might be some stuff that was on the editing room floor, but I would be happy if this movie just existed the way it is. And I don't ever see that again, especially if it's not like polished up and the synchronicity isn't right. If it doesn't quite fit in with the tone or the color matching, if the color grading's off, like that ruins everything. I know that sounds weird. It just one of my biggest critiques of everything Marvel comics, Marvel Cinematic Universe, is the color grading of every movie up until Guardians of the Galaxy, where they finally got it right. And it was like, here comes Pacific Rim from 2013 to wow you with all these fun orange and blue colors, and you realize the movie's not just gray. Because up to that point, every Marvel film looked like it was filmed in a parking lot in like 1991, formerly USSR, now Russia. But this is a fantastic film. If you want to see
it's a campy fun. You know what I mean? Just like Gremlins and a few of the other movies. And what was it? Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, that type of.
Hold on. Gremlins is a little bit above this.
Well, no, I'm saying it's the campiness of it. You know, the dorky, goofy character, young nerd kid that kind of doesn't fit in with everyone else. You know, they have a lot of the same things in it, around it. It's just the story is different about how the young quirky boy, teenager or whatever, deals with the circumstances. But basically it's still campy. You know what I mean? But I loved them. But they were two totally different movies, because I didn't think Gremlins was a horror movie at all. Did you?
When I was a young kid, no. But now when I see it, it's a very good movie to watch when you're the safety guy at your job, because you can start pointing out how much every damaged item costs.
But I loved Gremlins. I mean, Gremlins is a classic movie. I mean, I don't think anyone could remake it ever to the standard it was for the first movie that we got to see. I mean, there's just, it's just a classic. It just can't be redone. Just like Legend or The Dark Crystal, and there's a few other movies like that. It's just the way it's supposed to be. Labyrinth, that's just the way it's supposed to be. And even if it doesn't matter if from 100 years from now, when a young person sees it, if they see it, I think they'll love it just the way it is. I don't think that you want to redo it. I want to make it into something it isn't.
Midnight Mass is a Netflix series. Okay. I've heard about Midnight Mass. I've heard about.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Midnight Mass. I've been hearing a lot about this, and I wonder if it's from the same people that did Hemlock Grove.
I don't know. I have to look it up.
Next week, before we hit the 2-hour mark, I gave Janet a homework assignment for her to go and to find out exactly what Sean Patrick Flanery films she wanted to see the most. And she has delivered, although we did manage to change her mind, because I just think that one film.
But I hadn't seen it, so to me it was worth.
We will watch it. Don't get me wrong. We're going to watch it. We're not going to discuss it as a primary. We might discuss it during the original discussion for the Boondock Saints. But that's one of the films, the Boondock Saints. Sean Patrick Flanery. We're watching Powder. Nefarious 2023. Boondock Saints 1999. She was going to go with Boondock Saints Part 2 2009, but instead we're going with the Suicide Kings.
Yeah, Suicide Kings, because I hadn't seen Suicide Kings.
Suicide Kings is for me, it's a very watchable film.
Mhm.
It makes you pause a lot. It has the same feeling as like Lucky Number 7,
Mhm.
which is one of my more enjoyable films. I like watching that with Garrett quite a bit, but I think you're going to dig it quite a lot, and we'll watch part 2 of Boondock Saints, but you'll understand why we want to talk about Suicide Kings instead, because there's that we could talk about that for 4 hours.
Mhm.
Boondock
Okay.
great. Boondock Saints Part 2 is a good schlock, but Suicide Kings is a film, and it feels like it could stand up. It'd be a good midnight showing or a double feature with the usual suspects.
Well, have you seen Powder or Nefarious?
Never.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad. I get to see Suicide Kings, which I haven't seen, and you get to see a movie you haven't seen
I
with the
get to see
same
movies
actor
I
in
haven't
it.
seen.
So, well, that's good. Then we're gonna enjoy them. I'm excited.
And if John Larroquette ever watches my channel before he dies, I don't think it'll ever happen. But I'd like to say to John Larroquette, thank you for Dan Fielding. Even though you rejected any further Emmys after your fourth, you were one of the best legal men to follow. And you gave a lot of people inspiration to be a complete dick, womanizing legal professional. And I know many of them. I know many of them from the state of Illinois, and I appreciate everything you did for us. And I wish you were immortal, sir, but I know it'll happen at some point.
I wish I'd gotten his autograph. I met him one time in Las Vegas.
See, you met him right before or right after uh, Star Trek 3 came out. Night Court comes out, and he was
Mhm.
starting to do films and other things, and nobody really
Well, this was
recognized.
recently. This was like 9 years ago, I guess, when I was in Vegas
Yes.
for a wedding, at someone else's wedding, and he was in this casino playing the slot machine.
Oh,
And a couple people said, "Hey, isn't that so and so from that show, Night Court or something?" And he was older. He was an older guy, and we walked by a couple times and looked at him, and he looked up at us. We go, "That's him." So we got a couple pictures with him and stuff. But
I've never heard bad things about him. So if you see that
he
again,
was really
I-
nice, very nice guy. But I did meet him. He was a nice guy. Sorry.
it's all right. Six Nation 31 Kings is starting to give away some spoilers here. Suicide Kings has fish boots, a busket. Yeah, good times. Powder was one of the earlier films, and it was a cool one.
Yeah, it was really good.
Everybody I know like Powder, just like everybody I know really enjoys The Nightmare Before Christmas, and I've never seen that. So
Oh, we'll have to do that one too. That's a good one.
calendar's filling up.
Mm-hmm. But
All right, for all of you that have been here, at one point we had like 17 or some odd number of people between the two channels coming together to listen to us talk lovingly about a movie, which I've held in high regard for many years.
mm-hmm.
This movie holds up very well. Janet, do you have anything else to say?
No, I pretty much said everything. I talked an awful lot during this movie, but yeah, I really liked this movie. It was fun. We had a really good group of people that came to watch it with us in Discord, which was nice. I like having quite a few people. We talked a little bit about it afterward, and it was a great movie to get to see again. Brought back a lot of memories.
Next week, the film we are watching is going to be the first one on your list, which let me find that again.
Powder
from 1995.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward to seeing this for the first time.
Me too.
If you wish to join us, let me gather my party.
Yeah, you guys can join us next Sunday in Bruce's Discord if you would like to watch Powder while we watch it. It's going to be a lot of
fun. I've had a few difficulties here and there. Probably be getting a new PC. Looking at some PCs now and probably going to pick one up. The technology is right to where with the things I'm wanting to do with the computer don't require the biggest, most. Be Sunday at 4 o'clock. Awesome one. Sunday at
Well,
4 o'clock Central Standard
you're
Time.
not going to start the movie that early, though, are you?
No, I'm going to try to do that around 6 to 7 o'clock.
And, yeah, in between 6 and 7 is when we'll start the movie. But before that, if you come early, he's been watching Futurama.
Last week was kind of rough, but this week I think we'll have that fixed. We should have that taken care of. We'll be doing Powder on Sunday, and then Monday night we'll discuss it here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Central Time, awesome one. Central Standard Time. My name is Bruce Lombardo, and with Janet from Another Planet, we deeply appreciate everybody who is part of this tonight. We look forward to seeing each and every one of you. Like to give special thanks to the Crafting Gamer, who he seems to be doing this on a regular. Thank you, sir. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Also, our friend 6 Nation 31 Kings. Going through the started comments now. Why did Dandridge have so many windows in his basement? I know. That's my problem with this film. I'm sorry.
Because they had to bring a lot of daylight to get rid of him. That's why.
Before I would have signed for the house, I would have told the realtor, "You board that shit up, mister."
Seaming it over.
Exactly. And then our friend Flady, the dirty campaigner. For James Woods, I like to nominate Indictment McMartin Trial.
So you have that on the list? So when are we going to watch December?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Actually, we're going for January for this because December we want to do kind of Christmas-ish films. Okay. We already did Die Hard, guys. We already did Die Hard. We'll go through the list for last year, and I'll post what we did for December last year. That way, you know not to select these 4 films. But I don't want to do repeats. I can always talk about The Thing or Big Trouble in Little China again, or Heat. You know, those are 3 films I could talk about and watch again over and over again. But I would like to see films that I've not seen or watched at least lately.
Because there's so many of them. It's going to take us forever.
That's fine. I like the idea of that. You're a really good co-host and you're a really good friend. And I appreciate doing this with you every Monday.
I do too. I enjoy it immensely.
From the 2 of us to all of you, we thank you for tonight. Good night.